We had 6 different tools. Each of them made sense at the time. You know, Sneak and Defect Dojo, all of these things have great validity for certain things, but I need to be in a space where I'm going where the puck is going in years to come. And so I needed to move to a different space with what I was doing. My name is Amanda Hartle, and I am a vCISO with my own firm of fiddlers, but also for companies such as Prove and FinTech and startups. I have no idea on a daily or weekly basis what's going to get thrown at me in terms of I need you to review this code, or we have new product, or we want to do executive monitoring. I have no idea, and that's really enjoyable, actually. You know, when you have a startup that you've created and you have to secure things. The data that you have is so important in a financial area. But you start to have a little bit of a Frankenstein situation because you only had to deal with one issue at a time. So then you buy a tool for it. And then another issue comes up or another control, you buy another tool. And so then you look back at the end of a couple of years and nothing is cohesive, nothing makes sense, and it's actually causing a lot of friction for everybody in the company. One thing that is a pain point that people don't expect is that we have a very changing environment all the time. And so yes, you do things like, how do you solve for that? You know, dynamic analysis, static analysis, you solve for it in different ways. But by the time we would get an output of vulnerabilities or issues that we were having, that environment didn't even exist anymore. So then engineers just got angry. They were like, you've got a ton of JIRA tickets for something that doesn't even exist. I don't even know what this environment is. So this made us have a huge lack of trust between the security team and the engineering team because it looked like we didn't know our own environment. I randomly came across Aikido. Look, the reality is that we genuinely in the security exec space only engage with things that we know or is told to us by somebody else that's in the space. We all talk to each other. We all have been having similar pain points, and I was at a cyber conference and engaged with somebody who was from Aikido, and it was this really great conversation. And then I'm gonna be honest, transparent cost is probably the most interesting thing because it was so fast and because it was so transparent. I was interested in taking a look, and I was able to also like convince the engineering team, like, this may be a good thing just to look at. The thing that stood out about Aikido quickly is time to value. So it really did just take a short amount of time for us to turn around. So by the end of our first week, we were able to do an output of POC that everybody could say, okay, this is onto something, and this could be something that could. It was about efficiency. It was about how we could make this a more cohesive experience for the developers. Security is not in place for anything other than to figure out how to make them go faster and in a secure fashion. And it just took very little time for us to say we can stand this up quickly, and the transferring from one tool or deprecation of other tools was just seamless. I was shocked. It was like hours before we could start to see that there was a very different type of tickets that were coming in, that were getting automated, and the value that engineers were getting from that in environments that were legitimately environments we were using. So I think executives loved seeing as soon as we had this dashboard that was real data and not stuff that was kind of just inflated and it looked like you had hundreds of things that were going on. And the reality is I don't need a lot of noise. I need actionable things that are going to reduce risk that the executive team could see. This is going to sound crazy, but the number one way we use Aikido Approve is that it is less about the security team owning it, and it has been moved into the engineering team. I mean, to the point in clarity, like, we had to ask the question, who owns that budget anymore? Because it's not about being a security tool anymore. It is about being an engineering tool. So that's a delightful issue to have. Normally it's very clear cut and engineers are like, no, we have nothing to do with this. Back in the check marks days, like, we don't want that. But now we have people who are like, this is really easy to use. I can run this myself, I can do this myself, I can handle everything, and I can ship code quickly. And so we've moved into it's the beautiful terminology of DevOps, and you've moved into that space, and that's where we needed that enabler to push us there. A lot of AppSec programs are a little bit like a Frankenstein cobbled together car that you put together. Like, this is a quarter panel from this car, and it's moved around, and it has it's like a van because you have to put a lot of stuff into it. I would say this is like a Porsche 911. So it is highly efficient and effective, and you know exactly that you're using all of the space correctly, and it takes corners really well, and it's agile, all of the things I want to see in a great car. But there's one thing that a car enthusiast will say, I can feel the road. I feel like I'm inside this program, and I have much more clarity of how I can hug a turn. And I also like manual, so I think there's a lot more capability of, sure, you can Tiptronic and you can get through and things can be very automated, but I like that I can also get in and be manual with this stuff too.